This is Garrett Fry, the Cityscape Sequence Lead for 3D Digital Map Painting, and we are looking at shot G100. So if we take a look, it's panning off to the left, and we're kind of trailing this train as it goes by. So for this shot, we are going to need to, immediately change the biggest most iconic building from this view, and then you're going to want to probably eliminate some of these other iconic structures and replace them with other ones. So the guidance we've been given is that you can change up to 50%. However, you don't necessarily need to go to that extent. You're changing it as much as you possibly the least amount as you possibly can in order to make it feel like a different city. So if that requires you to do 3 buildings or 5 buildings or 10 buildings, it's kind of up to you in your judgment. But you know that the more buildings that you put in here represents the more work. So, but the biggest ones that we're going to want to replace, like this guy here, and these 3. So put something in its place that looks nice and appropriate, and that adds to this feel. Of course, everything below this line we're going to want to keep. It would just be adding stuff up here. So the other shot that you're going to want to consider with this shot is the other 2 shots is G101 and G102. So they're similar in the direction that we're looking, but it's not exactly in the same spot. So the perspective is going to slightly change between shots. And so when you put your building in there, it's not just a drag and drop, because the perspective will be wrong. You will need to go back through and realign your building with the correct perspective. The great thing about having this building here and replacing this building is that you can see exactly where the perspective lines are going on this, and you can match exactly to where that is. So that's in that way it makes it quite a bit easier for you. So whatever that you're doing out here, you're going to have to, if it calls for it, you need to make some kind of indication down into the water here. This is like, if you replace this building, you won't need to do anything down here because it's so nondescript that it's just a dark shape. But let's say you put a big building right here that's equally as big as this building, and this has this dark shape this way, then you will need to indicate a dark shape here. So you can take this image and flip it and turbulate it and stick it, and composite it in, kind of merge it into this to this water. I would try to be as subtle as you can with it, or you can maybe just grade it down and see if that will give you the effect that you want. Either way, you need to have some indication that you have buildings down here in the water. Normally something like that, reflection in the water, would be something that compositing would do, but because you're kind of taking the lead on these shots, and you're a bit of the one-stop shop for completing these, then you will need to do the reflection for your buildings in here. Make sure that before you jump into these shots, you download the image library. The image library consists of nearly 500 raw images. That's 2.27 gigs of buildings from 5 different cities from around the world: Sydney, Wellington, Adelaide, San Francisco, and New Orleans. So there's a huge variety of buildings to choose from. The photo reference includes buildings under all different lighting conditions and angles, so it pays off to familiarize yourself with the materials you're going to use to successfully execute these shots.